Beneath their notice, the massive shadow of the Arxen battle cruiser drifted slowly across Seattle's skyline, blocking the sun for precisely 8 minutes and 42 seconds each day. After 3 years, people had grown accustomed to the artificial eclipse, a daily reminder of Earth's place in the galactic hierarchy. Commander Nera Voss watched it from her apartment window, timing the darkness with military precision before turning away. "Scheduled reminder, Commander," her AI assistant announced. "Transport arrives in 15 minutes. "Thank you, Araya," Nera replied, finishing her coffee. The liquid was bitter and authentic, one of the few luxuries the Arxen hadn't deemed worthy of confiscation. The aliens had little interest in Earth's cuisine, considering human digestive capabilities amusingly primitive. Nera's uniform bore no insignia, appearing to casual observers as standard business attire. In the years since first contact, the United Earth Defense Force had become a shadow organization, operating beneath the Arxen's contemptuous gaze. The aliens had permitted Earth to maintain a ceremonial defense force, a humiliating concession that had become humanity's greatest advantage. The Arxen Collective ruled over 300 star systems, establishing themselves as the dominant power in this arm of the galaxy. Their technological superiority had made Earth's resistance futile when their ships first appeared in orbit. Humanity had surrendered after a brief, devastating demonstration of Arxen weapons capabilities over the uninhabited Australian outback. "We come as benefactors," the Arxen ambassador had declared. "Your species has potential, but requires guidance. Accept Arxen protection, and in a century or two, you may earn associate status." What followed was not occupation, but something more insidious, a systematic extraction of Earth's resources under the guise of development taxes. The Arxen didn't need military control when economic domination achieved the same ends with less effort. Nera's transport arrived, an ordinary-looking autonomous vehicle that shuttled her to what appeared to be a defunct oil platform in the North Pacific. Once aboard, the real journey began as the platform descended beneath the waves, revealing an enormous underwater complex. "Poseidon Base. Commander on deck," announced Captain Miguel Reyes as Nera entered the command center. "At ease," she replied, scanning the room. "Status report." The Arxen delegation finished their inspection of the Sydney facility, Reyes reported. "They were thoroughly unimpressed with our primitive fusion research." Nera allowed herself a small smile. "Perfect." On the central view screen, a broadcast from the Galactic Assembly was playing. Dr. Eliza Chen, Earth's representative, stood before the gathered delegates from dozens of spacefaring civilizations. The Arxen High Commander, with his distinctive blue-scaled skin and 4 eyes, looked down from an elevated platform. "The human petition for access to interstellar drive technology is denied," the High Commander announced. "Their science lacks the necessary foundation to comprehend even basic principles of dimensional folding." Laughter rippled through the assembly, a cacophony of alien sounds united in mockery. Dr. Chen maintained her composure, though Nera could see the tightness in her jaw, the slight tremble in her hands. "The humans still believe gravity cannot be manipulated," called one delegate, triggering another wave of amusement. "They think dark matter is theoretical," shouted another. The High Commander raised a hand for silence. "We appreciate Earth's enthusiasm for advancement. Perhaps in another century, when you've mastered elementary particle manipulation, we can revisit your petition. Until then, continue your quaint experiments." Nera shut off the feed. "Arrogant bastards," she muttered. "Their arrogance is our opportunity," replied Dr. Sanjay Patel, entering the command center. The physicist had been working around the clock, his eyes bloodshot but alive with excitement. "They're so convinced of our technological backwardness that they don't bother with thorough surveillance. Their scanners can't detect what they don't believe possible." "Show me," Nera ordered. The command center's lights dimmed as they moved to the adjacent laboratory. Through reinforced glass, they observed a chamber containing a small drone surrounded by concentric rings of an unusual metal alloy. Project Phantom, Test 47, Dr. Patil announced. We're targeting the lunar dark side this time. Technicians worked at their stations, monitoring readouts that showed energy patterns unlike anything in conventional physics. The rings around the drone began to spin, not physically but at the quantum level, a subtle vibration that seemed to blur the very reality around the device. Initiating phase shift in 3, 2, 1. The drone didn't vanish with a flash or dramatic effect. It simply ceased to exist in one location and reappeared in another. On the monitor, real-time footage from a hidden lunar camera showed the drone materializing on the moon's surface. 23 seconds for 250,000 miles, Dr. Patil said quietly. We're getting faster. Nara stared at the monitor, her mind racing with implications. And the Arkson have no idea. Their entire technology is based on hyperlane travel. They tear holes in space-time and travel through established corridors. They discarded phase shift technology millennia ago as too unstable. They never perfected it because they found an easier way. Dr. Patel's voice dropped to a whisper. But we had no choice but to make it work. How soon can we scale up to larger vessels? We've already begun. Hangar 7. Hangar 7 was supposedly decommissioned. Another facility the Arkson had dismissed as obsolete. When Nara entered, she understood why the project had been kept secret even from most of the base personnel. 7 sleek vessels, unlike any conventional spacecraft, were under construction. Their hulls featured the same unusual alloy as the test drone's rings, arranged in intricate patterns that seemed to challenge conventional geometry. The first will be ready for testing in 2 weeks, Dr. Patil explained. We're calling it the Defiance. And weapons. Lieutenant Commander Zoe Harper stepped forward. Conventional weapons would be useless against Arkson shields. However, if we can phase shift directly inside their shield perimeter. She trailed off, the implication clear. How many can we build before they notice? Nara asked. 50, perhaps 60 vessels, replied Captain Reyes. We're using resources from their approved projects, skimming just enough to stay below their attention threshold. Nara nodded slowly. We'll need at least that many. The Arkson never travel alone. As if on cue, her communicator beeped with an encrypted message. Commander, you need to see this, said the voice of Admiral Takahashi, one of the few high-ranking officials aware of Project Phantom. The message contained new directives from the Arkson Collective. Their development taxes were increasing by 300%. Additionally, they were implementing a population management protocol, a euphemism for conscripting humans to serve in their interstellar conflicts. They want 1 million people within 60 days, Admiral Takahashi explained. Non-compliance will result in disciplinary demonstrations over major population centers. Nara looked around at her team, then back at the partially completed fleet. We don't have 2 weeks anymore. How soon can the Defiance be ready? Dr. Patil hesitated. 4 days, absolute minimum. But we haven't tested the phase shift on anything this size. Then we test it in combat, Nara decided. Inform all project personnel. We're accelerating to emergency protocols. The Arkson have just forced our hand. As alarms began to sound throughout the facility, Nara looked once more at the vessels under construction. For 3 years, humanity had endured humiliation, exploitation, and mockery. They had smiled and bowed before their benefactors, while secretly preparing for this moment. They think we're primitives, she said quietly. It's time to show them how dangerous primitives can be. The next 4 days passed in a blur of activity. Sleep became optional as crews worked around the clock to prepare the Defiance and its sister ships. Additional manufacturing facilities were activated in deep ocean trenches and abandoned mines, locations the Arkson scanners rarely bothered to check thoroughly. On the 5th day, the Arkson High Commander's proclamation was broadcast worldwide. Earth had 24 hours to begin compliance with the conscription order or face consequences. Massive warships materialized in orbit, positioning themselves over major cities: New York, Beijing, London, Moscow, Tokyo. As night fell over the Pacific, Nara addressed the combined crews of Earth's secret fleet. "For too long, we've been dismissed as backward, as unworthy of respect," she said, her voice carrying to every hidden facility worldwide. "Tomorrow, the Arxen expect us to surrender our people to their wars. They expect us to bow our heads and accept their judgment of our worth." She paused, looking at the determined faces around her. "Instead, we will show them what humans are truly capable of. We may not have their numbers or their established technology, but we have something they forgot long ago: the drive to overcome impossible odds. Tomorrow, humanity stands up." A cheer went up from the assembled crews, a sound of defiance that had been building for 3 years. As they dispersed to their stations, Nara turned to Dr. Patel. "Will it work?" she asked quietly. The physicist smiled wearily. "The math says yes. The tests say yes." He shrugged. "But we're attempting something the Arxen deemed impossible. So who knows?" "That's what they don't understand about humans," Nara replied. "We specialize in the impossible." As the countdown to the Arxen deadline approached, final preparations were completed on Earth's hidden fleet. The Defiance would launch first, a test case carrying the hopes of an entire planet. If successful, the remaining vessels would follow immediately. Nara took her place in the command chair of the Defiance, surrounded by a crew chosen for their exceptional abilities and unwavering resolve. On the view screen, they could see the looming shape of an Arxen warship positioned above San Francisco. "Phase shift drives at full capacity," reported the engineering officer. "Targeting coordinates locked." Nara took a deep breath. Humanity has been patient long enough. "Initiate phase shift. Let's remind the galaxy who we are." The day humanity stood up, High Commander Vexer stood on the bridge of the Arxen flagship Inevitable Dominance, gazing down at the blue-green planet beneath him. 3 years of occupation had proven disappointing. Earth had resources worth harvesting, certainly, but its technology was primitive, its people unexceptional. The collective had incorporated hundreds of species, and humans ranked among the least impressive. "The deadline approaches, High Commander," his first officer reported. No response from their governing council. Vexer's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture of mild annoyance. "They always resist at first. It's tedious. Shall I prepare the weapons demonstration? Perhaps their Washington would make a suitable example." "No. Start with something smaller. One of their regional cities. Seattle, perhaps." Vexer turned to his tactical display. "Have all ships reported in?" "Yes, High Commander. 20 warships positioned as instructed. Our sensors detect no unusual activity." Of course not, Vexer thought. Human spacecraft couldn't even leave their atmosphere without chemical propellants. Their most advanced vessels were laughably primitive, visible to Arxen sensors from light years away. "Sir," the sensor officer called suddenly, "I'm detecting an energy signature. I've never seen anything like it." Vexer moved to the console, irritation turning to curiosity. "What kind of energy?" Before the officer could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. "Unknown vessel," the tactical officer shouted. It's inside our shield perimeter." "Impossible," Vexer snapped. "Nothing can penetrate Arxen shields without." The view screen shifted to show a sleek black vessel hovering less than 100 meters from the Inevitable Dominance. It had appeared without warning, without using any known form of propulsion or dimensional folding. "Open communications," Vexer ordered, his voice steady despite his shock. On the bridge of the Defiance, Commander Naravos received the incoming transmission with a grim smile. "On screen," she ordered. The alien face that appeared was clearly stunned. All 4 eyes widened in what Nara recognized as the Arxen expression of surprise. "This is High Commander Vexer of the Arxen Collective. Identify yourselves and explain your presence inside our defensive perimeter." Nara stood, straightening her uniform. This is Commander Nera Voss of the Earth Defense Force vessel Defiance. We're here to renegotiate the terms of our relationship. Vexor's scales rippled, a sign of agitation. Your species possesses no technology capable of this. You must have had outside assistance. No, High Commander. This is entirely human innovation. While your inspectors were laughing at our primitive research facilities, we were developing technology in directions your people abandoned millennia ago. Across Earth's orbit, more alarms sounded on Arxen vessels as additional human ships materialized within their shield perimeters, appearing simultaneously without warning, without dimensional wake, without any trace of conventional transit. 57 human vessels detected. The tactical officer reported to Vexor, voice shaking. All within our defensive perimeters, all weapons hot. On Nera's command, each Earth vessel transmitted the same message to its target. Your shields cannot protect you from technology you don't understand. Power down your weapon systems immediately. Vexor's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme stress. This is some form of illusion. Humans cannot. To demonstrate that this is no illusion, Nera interrupted. The Defiance will now relocate to your starboard side. Before Vexor could respond, the human vessel disappeared and reappeared instantly at the designated position. That's not possible, whispered the Arxen sensor officer. They're using no known form of dimensional folding or hyperlane technology. And yet here we are, Nera replied. Your scientists dismissed phase shift technology as unstable. We made it work because we had no other choice. Throughout the Arxen fleet, commanders reported the same impossible situation. Human vessels materializing inside their defenses, capable of disappearing and reappearing at will. The technology violated everything the collective understood about dimensional physics. What are your demands? Vexor finally asked, mandibles still clicking rapidly. First, the immediate cancellation of your conscription order. Second, the complete withdrawal of all Arxen forces from Earth orbit. Third, recognition of Earth as a sovereign, independent system with full diplomatic status in the Galactic Assembly. Vexor's scales darkened with anger. The collective does not negotiate with. To demonstrate our sincerity, Nera continued calmly. We've also positioned phase shift devices within the engine compartments of each of your vessels. They will activate on my command if negotiations fail. As if to prove her point, a small drone materialized directly on the bridge of the inevitable dominance, hovering silently before the High Commander before vanishing again. The bridge fell silent. The implications were staggering. If humans could transport objects directly into Arxen ships at will, the entire collective defense doctrine was obsolete. You cannot expect me to make such decisions without consulting the collective council, Vexor said, his tone shifting toward diplomatic caution. You have 1 hour, High Commander. During that time, our vessels will remain in position. Any attempt to power weapons or engines will be considered a hostile action. Across Earth, people gathered around screens showing the standoff in orbit. After 3 years of subjugation, the sight of human vessels facing down the mighty Arxen warships inspired a wave of hope and pride. In the Poseidon Base Command Center, Admiral Takahashi watched the feeds with measured optimism. They've opened diplomatic channels with the Collective Council, he reported to Dr. Patel. Our intelligence suggests they're in complete disarray. They should be, Patel replied. We've just demonstrated technology they believed impossible. Their entire strategic doctrine is based on control of hyperlanes and dimensional gates. We've shown them a form of travel that requires neither. On the Defiance, Nera maintained her composed demeanor despite the tension. The phase shift drive required enormous energy. They couldn't maintain this standoff indefinitely. If the Arxen called their bluff and attacked, Earth's small fleet would be overwhelmed despite their technological advantage. 57 minutes into the ultimatum, Vexor's image reappeared on the view screen. Commander Voss, he began, his voice carefully controlled. The Collective Council has authorized me to accept your initial terms with conditions. I'm listening. The Arxen Collective will recognize Earth as a sovereign system and withdraw our forces from your orbit. In exchange, you will share your phase shift technology with us." Nair allowed herself a small smile. "We decline to share our technology at this time, High Commander. However, we are open to establishing formal diplomatic relations and discussing potential technological exchanges in the future as equals." Vexer's scales rippled with suppressed rage. "You cannot expect. I expect exactly what the Arxen have demonstrated to countless other species, that superior technology dictates terms. You have 15 minutes to begin withdrawal procedures, or we will be forced to demonstrate more of our capabilities." The next 12 minutes passed in tense silence. Then, one by one, the Arxen warships began powering down weapons systems and activating their conventional engines. The withdrawal had begun. "They're retreating," reported the tactical officer, disbelief in her voice. "For now," Nera cautioned. "This is just the beginning. They'll be back once they've analyzed our technology and developed countermeasures." "How long will that take?" asked Captain Reyes. "Dr. Patel estimates we have at least a 2-year technological advantage. We need to use that time wisely." As the Arxen fleet moved away from Earth orbit, the news spread rapidly across the planet. Streets filled with celebrating people, many weeping with joy and relief. For the first time in 3 years, humans looked to the stars without fear. In the days that followed, the diplomatic landscape of the galaxy shifted dramatically. News of Earth's technological leap spread through the Galactic Assembly, where other subjugated species took note. The Arxen Collective, embarrassed by their retreat, attempted to downplay the incident as a temporary strategic withdrawal pending further assessment. No one believed them. 1 week after the confrontation, Nera sat in a newly established Earth embassy on the Galactic Assembly Station. Across from her, representatives from 3 other species leaned forward with eager expressions. "The Arxen confined our development for generations," said the Tellarite ambassador, her translucent skin pulsing with emotion. "If your phase shift technology could be adapted for our physiology." "Earth is interested in forming new alliances," Nera replied carefully. "But our immediate priority is securing our independence." The door slid open, and Dr. Eliza Chen entered, the same diplomat who had endured the Assembly's mockery weeks earlier. Now, representatives from a dozen species rose respectfully as she passed. "Commander Voss," she greeted Nera warmly. "The Assembly has approved our application for full membership. Furthermore, they've invited Earth to join the Technology Exchange Commission, a position the Arxen try to block." "How did they justify their opposition?" Nera asked. Dr. Chen smiled. "They claimed we lacked the scientific maturity to participate in advanced technological discussions. The Assembly overruled them, 127-3. That evening, as Nera watched the sunset from the observation deck, she reflected on how quickly the galaxy's perception of humanity had changed. 3 years of humiliation had been erased in a single day. A message arrived from Admiral Takahashi. Phase shift drive improvements proceeding ahead of schedule. Exploration vessel Horizon ready for maiden voyage. Destination: Proxima Centauri. Awaiting your command. Nera smiled as she composed her reply. Humanity has been waiting for the stars long enough. Launch approved. On Earth, production of the new vessels continued in facilities no longer hidden from sight. Children pointed excitedly at the sky, not in fear of alien shadows, but in anticipation of humanity's expansion among the stars. Schools incorporated phase shift theory into their curriculum, while the United Earth government established the Stellar Academy to train the next generation of explorers. The galaxy had laughed at humanity's supposed backwardness, dismissing Earth as an insignificant world populated by primitives. They had failed to recognize the unique human quality that had driven progress throughout our history: the relentless determination to overcome limitations, to find paths where none existed before. In the Galactic Assembly Chamber, Earth's new flag hung proudly alongside those of civilizations thousands of years older. Beneath it, inscribed in multiple languages, was the phrase that had become humanity's unofficial motto: "The impossible just takes a little longer." The Arxen had laughed at humanity. They weren't laughing anymore. Retriclad can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.